uh, Leadership Academy, or Leadership Professional Learning Community. And our goal this year is to have principals sharing best practices in their schools to help those of you who are still tweaking and improving like all of us do each day. And so today we have Seth Martinez from San Juan College High School, and they are an exemplary designated school. So you can ask him questions about that as well as he goes along. And let's go ahead and do introductions. Seth, do you want to add to that?
No, that's fine. Seth Martinez, Farmington, New Mexico, and I had a slide on there, but born and raised in Farmington, but yeah, principal at San Juan College High School right now.
Elizabeth?
My name's Elizabeth Rivera. I'm from Socorro. I grew up here as well, and I'm principal at the high school that I attended when I was in high school. I just completed my first year here at Socorro High. I was a principal in Tucson, Arizona before that for about 6 years, and then I worked in Albuquerque Public Schools for 19 years before that. So glad to be back home and making an impact on the community that I came out of.
And the OGAS group?
Miguel Ogas. I was born and raised here in Los Lunas. I moved away for about 20 years. I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada for most of that time. And then I came back here about 2 years ago to help with School of Dreams Academy. Gary, go ahead.
Excellent.
And I'm Mike Ogas. I'm the founder and superintendent of School of Dreams Academy. I've been in education since the beginning of time. So been doing this quite a while. So I'm happy to be here with you. I'm very much supportive of the early college high school movement, and we've been in early college high school since 2012, I believe, is when we first wrote the application. But I think it offers a lot to open up doors for kids, and really excited moving in along that with both the educational and the workforce kinds of things. So happy to do it.
Thank you. And you had another person in your group there?
Carrie Lucero. She's kind of shy, but she does a bunch of stuff.
She does all of the work of the school. She really basically is the only reason that we're kind of organized. So
we love those people.
Yeah.
And Brian? Hi, Brian. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Brian Simpson from Early College High School in Deming, New Mexico. And we've been here since we started in 2018.
Thank you. Okay, Seth.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys attending today. I've had a chance to actually go to a few of these schools. And I know there's great things going on at all these schools. Today I'm gonna be talking a little bit about supporting early college high school students through layers of support. While I'm talking about this, I think you can look through whatever lens you're coming from, right? And so if you have a school within a school model, charter, etc., I think that a lot of these supports you might be able to take and manipulate and make them your own. And so my hope is that we're able to do that. So just a real quick snippet about me. Like I said, I was born and raised in Farmington, New Mexico, and this is, I think it gets to that point, right, where you start to forget the years, but I think it's 24 years at this point, about 12 years in administration. And so I was previously at one of the traditional high schools here, the Elizabeth, like you said, it was the high school I went to. And so there's some funny things that come along with that, right, when you're walking down those same hallways. And I'm currently in my 6th year here at San Juan College High School, and it's been phenomenal and a great experience. And like you all said, I'm a big fan of the early college high school model as well. So when I go through this slideshow, as you see layers of support, I have some different avenues that I'm going to go down. But these 7 areas right here, when you see one of those blue numbers on a slide, you'll know that I'm outlining that support, and the slides that follow that will be centered around that support. And so we'll go through several classroom support, academic pathways, connections to careers. We know that's a huge part of our accreditation, equitable access, but more specifically, that equitable access to student support, what we call bridged support here at our early college high school, service leadership and how we implement that. And then, of course, probably one of the most important, in my opinion, is the relationship building and some steps that you can do to increase that relational piece at your early college high school or high school that you're at. So taking a look at this so you guys can frame where we're coming from here at San Juan College High School. This is a great photo here. When those hot air balloons start going, right, they fly right over our school. And so we always step out and take pictures. And many of these photos in this slideshow, I think, will give you an impression. The first photograph on the opening slide was one of our students that's doing an internship with the city of Farmington. So he's in that lift working on street signs. And so I'll try to explain some of those, the pictures too, as I go along. But you can look at the census data that we have here. Our population here at our school is probably plus or minus about 2 to 3% in each category, which I think it's a healthy balance for us. We're pretty proud of that. And I think that really is indicative of our recruitment efforts, because when we go to county middle schools, we service Aztec, Bloomfield, Central Consolidated, and Farmington schools. And so we really make a concerted effort to gear our recruitment efforts towards those first generation students, right? The underrepresented student. And with that, I think we've been able to really balance our student body to mimic what the San Juan County population looks like, essentially in those subcategories. So just kind of thinking about what your recruitment looks like, students that come to you, if you're able to have that process afforded to you. So our journey of support, and specifically for me as a leader in this school, I think, coming from a traditional high school setting, it was really built out of necessity. And so what we used to do is we would have 2-week meetings and we would look at failure reports, right? So we're automatically jumping to the academic need, but it wasn't really scratching the itch, so to speak. And so these support pieces that we were able to do were really trying to find classroom supports, talk to teachers about grading practices, which started to get people going in multiple directions and not in one direction. Students had to really initiate their own support, so they weren't receiving those services that they needed unless they spoke up, right? And we know students are not always going to tell us that they need help or they need supports. Some implementation changes that we were able to really hone in on at that time, and this is in a traditional high school setting, was we were able to meet more frequently, and we identified students in need based on whole child need. And this came directly from our counselors. So we included them in our administrative meetings specifically so counselors can tell us students that are on their radar. And then we would look at a correlation that looked at the whole child along with their academic need as well. That allowed us to go in multiple directions. Then we started organizing student visits. So after that meeting, the next 45 minutes to an hour was dedicated to an administrator or staff personnel and a counselor meeting with that student. And you would cover academic needs, social emotional needs, and the student could even stick around and speak with the counselor privately if needed after that. We established some partnerships with local businesses and the United Way, and we created what we called graduation coaches. And they met with students, specifically seniors, who were probably on the struggle bus for a little bit. And they were just another set of eyes and ears for that student and worked with those students through graduation. They would come have lunch with them a couple times a semester. And really, it was just creating a relationship where the student felt appreciated and heard, right? And if there were any struggles that the school was unaware of, those grad coaches sometimes were able to speak with us, and we could troubleshoot things that way. And then, of course, the academic credit recovery process. We initiated some Saturday school and some online learning opportunities for students, probably not new to your institutions, but we really worried and had many discussions on learning recovery versus credit recovery. I think we're all aware of those academic platforms that can allow a student to get credit recovery and move on, but we start to feel like we're socially promoting and the learning recovery being different in that we know they're getting the content. Here at this early college, we try our best not to do online learning recovery outside of ELA one time, and then the rest we try to ensure that it's a face-to-face scenario in whatever capacity.
Seth, can I ask you what online learning platform you use?
Yeah, so Edgenuity has been kind of the go-to for our district, and that's the one that's afforded to us. There's been some outside of that, but I can't, off the top of my head, I can't recall what those are, but Edgenuity has kind of been the go-to
Okay,
for right now.
thank you.
You bet. And again, anyone chime in anytime, feel free to ask questions. So number one, I mentioned was classroom supports. So we really focus on strong initial instruction. And so looking at the granular piece of student support, I think we have found that, and certainly in administration, that if we can identify those learning needs before it goes too long, right, and creates these huge gaps in instruction, that we're not going to have as much remediation and intervention that's necessary. That really comes down to the classroom instruction and coaching those teachers. And so real-time intervention, meaning that when a teacher is seeing those gaps in learning, that they're able to identify them, troubleshoot them, and fill those learning gaps so we're not finding out weeks later, which compounds the problem. Now, easier said than done, but what that comes with is the need for administration to really embody coaching and collaboration. Another huge piece of that is ensuring that you have a working professional learning community in your school, and that can take on a multitude of different ways. I think I can safely say we have tried and experimented with every kind of learning community you can think of, and that's simply because some didn't work. So the things I tell you today are not, certainly not the end all be all, but I can tell you from experience that it didn't work for us. So we tried content based. Well, we have a lot of singletons that are teaching, and so they didn't have content to team up with. We tried grade level, but the grade levels are so thin because of our small school that we really didn't have even numbers to balance that out. Probably one of the better ones was skill-based. And so what that takes is that we identified as a whole group what skills our students are lacking. And then in those content areas, when they met, they were able to develop goals around skill-based PLCs. And so all of their planning and discussions were about how to improve those skills that were universal across the entire school. And so then we could see those supports, and we could measure those, and we could see students get better at whatever that deficit was. And then vertical planning was difficult too. Depending on your higher ed department, you can kind of tap out, right? Because you might just be with your small high school group and reaching out to the college. Sometimes you might have some willing to visit, sometimes maybe not, and the not always on a regular schedule. But creating some system where you have a productive professional learning community is essential in that making classroom instruction strong, real-time intervention. And then, of course, I always, I think about this opportunity here. If you know other administrators, if you know across the state in the early college setting, charter setting, this is just a tremendous opportunity for us to get together. I don't see this all the time. Certainly, if you've worked in other settings, it's usually a district meeting that is exclusive to your PLC support. And so being able to do this is really just amazing to me. Number two, academic pathways. So one thing we know here is that not knowing where you're going can be confusing. And so when students start here, we really thought, okay, how can a first year student start exploring careers, have this career exploration for 3 years, and then take on an internship in a field that they might be interested in? So what we did is we started organizing those pathways, even if they're very simple, in a way that students were able to explore. And so we embedded all of this career exploration in a segregated class, and most recently in our first year experience class. And so what that teacher does is we use our Pathways to Career resources, and we look at this region's opportunities. We look at what jobs are available. We try to look at career clusters and cross-reference them with our higher ed partner to see what's available. Then that teacher takes them to the college every Friday to a new department. And this is something that I can't stress enough is so vital for these students when they come on the college campus to be able to see where these things take place. And so these students actually walk to these departments and do a short tour throughout the day. They might go to diesel one day, and they might go to the health occupations setting the next day, next week. And so every Friday is this new learning opportunity to introduce those pathways as early as possible. And so just in the chat, if you don't mind, while I'm going on to this next slide, if you just letting us know if you make a connection to careers at your school currently. If not, that's okay. Maybe what you plan to do to make connections. And if yes, how you're making connections. And while you're doing that, I'll move on to this next slide. So this picture is great. This is one of our former students here who did an internship with the media department in our district. And so you can see her at the elementary school showing some students their photograph that would be included on some different media that's published in the district. So what we know from this work-based learning that our students participate in is that they've developed an awareness of their learning growth, right? The learning becomes relevant because now they have an idea of what it might be useful for. And they understand those academic pathways and how they connect to that career. I think we would all agree that, having any experience like that is phenomenal, even if it's a terrible one. We've had students report back after an internship their senior year that they say, this is not for me, right? And rather than looking at it as a failure, it's a positive because now, they're not Mr. Martinez who changed their degree 6 times over and figured it out maybe senior year of college. So they're ahead of the game, so to speak. But that career exploration that these students do, we try to make it as broad as possible, even giving them multiple opportunities. I mentioned earlier some of our pathways to career utilities that we've been using. So we use the Career Explorer. We use the Labor Market Navigator, math, and the financial literacy curriculum currently. So if you have not been able to explore some of those resources that are free to you, I really, really suggest that you reach out to P2C to see if that can even be a supplemental piece of your curriculum that you're using right now. Some of our teachers are using it that way as well, and it's been a really vital part of what we've been able to do, just because it creates this continuity with career exploration. So the conversations are constantly centered around careers. So I mentioned earlier our SJCHS executive internship. So our kids are introduced to those careers in their first year. And I can say, without hesitation, I think during our second and third year of learning at our school, we don't do a phenomenal job of maintaining career interest. And every year I'm looking for that thing that we can connect those kids to, because I feel like there's a bit of a gap there. However, during their fourth year of learning, they do participate in an executive internship. And so what they do here is embed themselves in a semester of interning with it could be a community member. We have, I think, over 60 different resources in the community that we've written MOUs with. and those students are placed with those entities. Sometimes they even find their own businesses through connections, but we try to establish an MOU with those businesses as well. So much so that we've been able to hold a position here in the district for a work-based learning facilitator whose sole purpose is to make sure that they're establishing those connections with a business. So if that's something that's not afforded to you, I know it's a lot of work for a school to do that, but if you continue to do that year by year and keep accumulating businesses, before long, you'll have a lot of different opportunities. So this started for us as just a job shadowing experience, and kids had to find their own. But it's grown to this because each year we successfully kept adding on to it. Okay, so don't feel timid if for right now you have nothing afforded to you in that regard. This is a picture of our kids doing boot camp. So they come to us in the summertime, and then at the beginning of next semester. This class right here is half of our senior cohort, but they work on resume building. They work on interview skills. The picture earlier was of students doing mock interviews. So we get adults and convene at our central office, sometimes here at San Juan College, and those students actually participate in mock interviews. And they receive feedback from those adults, right? So be it how they're responding to questions, their dress and attire for the event and so forth. And it's really neat, and the kids have a lot of good feedback for this process. We actually had a graduate, I think 3 years removed, that stopped by recently that said, it was a good thing I took that internship class because I had some interviews recently and I think it helped me out. And I thought, okay, that's good feedback. That's enough for me. This is another student of ours that graduated recently, and she did her internship with a pharmacy here in town. And so this next interview is of her explaining just a student's perspective on the connection to careers.
Kind of with the internship, I've been looking more into pharmacy and specifically like the different specialties that pharmacy can have. My degree right now is for biology, and so it's kind of a almost more broad learning for pretty much any healthcare field. You can start off in biology, and so I think it's just helpful because you can kind of learn all the basic stuff while I'm still in high school. You kind of have more purpose while you're doing all your schoolwork, and it's more like you can kind of see what you're working towards. I guess even if it's a class that's maybe a little bit more boring, you can see that it's working for a degree that'll get you to the cooler place, kind of what you're doing in the internship. So whenever we had the internship boot camp, we got to learn kind of a lot about just being good, pretty much just a worker in general, and talk about the more basic things like showing up on time and wearing the right attire, being respectful. And then we were able to write our resumes, so we learned how to pretty much just how to do that and format it to where it looked nice and also showed everything that we had worked on. And then we did the internship interviews, and so we got to talk to a lot of different people, and they also gave us feedback on what we did. So if there was something we were maybe struggling with, they gave us a lot of helpful feedback. I definitely think it'd be helpful, especially if someone maybe had no idea what they wanted to do in the future. It could be kind of a good starting place to see maybe if they were interested in something or maybe not interested in something. And then I think it can also just set you up if you have something, kind of like I said, just learning the basic workplace experience. But no, I think it'd definitely be helpful. And then if they did decide to go into college, they would have more of a direction.
Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay, so this is number 4, so equitable access. When we usually talk about equitable access, we think of our design principles for an ECHS and making sure that we are giving equitable access to everyone that applies to this school. we use this terminology in terms of student support a little more granular. And so we think about who can access our student support. When does your support take place, and how will your support be assessed? And so we think about if we're implementing anything new in terms of intervention, we need to be able to answer these three questions, right? Ensuring that we're meeting the needs of the population, it's accessible to the student, and then are we able to track? So how do we know if it's actually working for these students? So here at San Juan College High School, our mascot is the Griffin. And so we have a term called soar and roar. So we call our acronyms are never used enough, right, in education. So we decided to call ours SOAR Support. And that SOAR stands for support, opportunity, achievement, and readiness. Those teachers that we have doing these SOAR intervention classes are embedded during the day. They also teach some other instruction, but what we do is we try to use that concurrently. And so maybe a Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be their core content, be it government or some others. And then those other 2 days or a day, depending on your need, would be a SOAR support. And that SOAR support is established with that goal setting. And really ours, we've been able to add on to it. We do not only study skills, academic supports and conferences, but we've most recently added action planning. And so this is what we really refer to as bridged support. And so those teachers work collaboratively with core instructional teachers. So it's not a study hall. And I think that's a big distinction between this type of instructional support and just a study hall. There'll be peer tutoring. So we have students that come in and tutor during that time. If they're able to go to teachers who might have a prep during that time, we can also pull them for that type of tutoring as well. This class is also, we've created a full-time position with a SOAR classroom for upperclassmen support, because I think that many of you can identify with your upperclassmen. They go to college, but they start to disappear and they're MIA after a little while, and we want to keep them connected. And so what we've done is it's a mandatory freshman class. Our sophomores through seniors have it scheduled if they meet a criteria, and you can see on that slide, D or Fs in classes, GPA below 2.7, currently taking credit recovery, we will schedule that for them. And if they're on academic probation or suspension, or a completion rate below 70%, because we know metric-wise, those are some that get us in some hot water if those kids are not maintaining those percentages. Probably the most important in terms of intervention is, and when I talk about bridge support intervention at our school, is who is running your intervention. And so a lot of times, and I know this through intervention establishment as an administrator, you kind of default to someone who might have time. It really, in my opinion, needs to be someone who is like your unicorn at your school. And so that's the person who's like the relationship expert, knows a variety of content and is dedicated and committed, the one that's going to stick around and help. Kind of, if you're thinking of sports, right, it's that kid that would show up before practice and stick around after practice. It's that kind of teacher. And a great communicator, because in order to have positive intervention, you need to have someone who can communicate well. The people that I have running our intervention at our school are those 3 people on my staff. I can safely say those 3 people meet that criteria in order to provide intervention, positive intervention for our students. So here's another student perspective on our support systems. And this student has taken advantage of all these supports while they were being established. And I think while we were even making some changes with it, and she's basically speaking to some of her experience in going through this SOAR support.
Well, knowing me, I get behind a lot. I procrastinate a lot. I'll be real. I do. Like right now, I'm not struggling as much, but like last year and the year before that, that was hard. And so like knowing that I would have to go into their class, check in with them. It just really helped me keep track of what needs to be done. So that I'm more aware of my academics, and I'm more aware of my grades, my homework, my assignments, and just everything. Showing up on time in class, because I also struggled going to class, and that all just really helped. I mainly had relationships with almost all the teachers I've had. And it was still a lot of teachers because of all the different subjects, but I have better relationships with the teachers. So having better relationships with them encouraged me to talk to them more, ask for help, and just not be scared of asking for help. Because I know people are scared to ask for help because it's showing sign of being vulnerable, and that's something I struggle with. So knowing that I have that help here and all that, then it's really helpful and supportive. Honestly, just a support system, because everyone's there for you. All the teachers are there. All they care about is your success, your health, making sure you're okay, that your classes are okay, that you're on track. All the teachers here, they really care about you, and knowing that you're cared about here is really helpful, because I feel students hide from the teachers a lot, but I feel if the teachers really reinforced having a good relationship with them, I feel it'd be a lot more helpful. And as time goes on, if the pressure and the overwhelming for the teachers would go away with all the students.
So that young lady is at UNM currently, first generation student. Really warms our hearts here, because she still comes back, and this is really her home away from home. So she comes here, and she might work on applications. She comes in when she's here on summer break, and we're still working to get support, and is always checking in with us. But she'll be graduating from UNM with her bachelor's here at the end of this year, and so we couldn't be more excited for her. But we see a lot of that, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we feel like these interventions and the student support have something to do with that. So number 6 on this list is service leadership. We at our early college high school have second and third year students with us have a mandatory amount of service leadership that they need to participate in the community. The reason being is because we feel and have seen that the connection to the community has created a tie to the meaning of our coursework. So it's become some of the fabric of what it means to be an early college high school student at our school. It's created some purpose for them, and so that correlates curricularly, academic improvement and success. We've seen that kind of all tied together. And then there's an economic and business impact. And so a lot of these connections in the community, volunteer and service efforts, turn into different opportunities, be it perhaps, like I said earlier, an MOU with a company to do an internship later for our seniors. Some students have even been able to be afforded paid positions at different areas that they volunteered in previously. And so these pictures here are one that's really simple for us, but it's on campus here and is celebrated each year. But we have our luminarias that we do here at San Juan College, and you can see we're in charge of doing the graduation plaza. And our last year's theme was a New Mexico Christmas. And so all of our different clubs produce those luminarias, and they fly a drone over the top during that time. But our kids love it. And it's a connection to even our school community here, right? So when I say that, I think the same thing translates to even different civic duties within the community if you're able to get your kids involved. So in the chat, if you guys can put in what percentage of high school students you believe that believe in a percentage that there's a caring adult at their school. Just kind of off the top of your head. Now, the data I'm pulling from is an older Gallup poll, but I'm willing to bet that it's not too far off still. Number of students that believe there's a caring adult at their school. See 100, 50, 80, Elizabeth. Brian, 75. $25, Miguel. Okay. So this one right here it's a 2016 Gallup poll. It's a national poll, but 39% surveyed students who strongly agree that adults at school care. It's super low, right? And it's disappointing to see that. And so the reason I include this slide on this presentation is just to really advocate for anyone who is in charge of creating intervention support for students, that you include teacher-student relationships and engagement, because I really do think that at the basis of all of this, you have to have positive relationships in order for those kids to believe that they can be successful, or for you to be able to deliver that intervention. And hopefully that number in your own educational institution, you can think of that and keep it in the back of your mind and say, okay, if we were to poll our students, what would that look like? And maybe you decide to, and then work on improving that while you're doing student supports. So I often refer to this text here. So there's some research on student engagement, and if you're interested, I've cited that here. But they really describe 4 levers of developmental change. The first one is knowledge and cognition, and that's whether or not teachers really understand how and when their interactions impact students. So how many of you have had a coaching conversation with a teacher and it's just you leave going, wow, I can't believe that they said that to a student, right? And they're just not seeing it through the same lens as you. But being able to coach those conversations, so there is that cognition and understanding. And then relational support. So do you offer professional development around that? Do you offer at least conversations around that during your coaching conversations as a whole staff? And what does that look like? And then exposure to feedback. So getting used to and getting the adults in your building to feel okay with feedback. Even if it's negative feedback in a way, right? So we think of that as growth opportunities, but framing it in a way that is exposure to feedback that's essential for that teacher growth. And then also setting targets, right, around which to focus efforts. So getting a good thumb on the pulse of your school and developing these 4 levers around where that metric is, and you're going to see larger results that way. So for us, one metric that we were really paying attention to this is my 6th year here, was our retention rate. And you can see that from the cohort on this graph of 2024 through 2029 right now. And we really attributed this exponential growth to our student supports. And so when we look at this retention rate of students who started with us and stayed with us through graduation, our goal is, okay, how can we support these kids until we're blue in the face so that they are here with us when they graduate? So you can see the one I have a question mark on, and I was actually talking with our staff today because I think we can speak to most of these students, and there were some early grads in there, some students who have moved and relocated, and we understand that there's mobility and that will happen. But I'm more concerned with the students who may make a change of environment because they need something different. And that's always curious to me, because it makes me go, okay, well, what couldn't we do to support that student, right? Did we reach an endpoint where we weren't able to support that kid? And now how do we make that change? So you can see our freshman class is obviously close to 100%, but our goal is to maintain that. This year's graduating class with us will be the largest graduating class we've had in all of our years of San Juan College High School. So we're pretty happy about that. I truly think that the support services we offer have created that scenario. So I have a teacher here, and he is one of our SOAR support teachers, and he's going to talk just briefly about our layers of support and what he's noticed from a teacher perspective.
So I have noticed a great impact on student success through our layers of support here, specifically at San Juan College High School, and primarily in my role as a SOAR teacher. It helps to boost confidence of the student, to show them that they have somebody available to them, have a class dedicated for their support, and to ensure that they are successful and that they have every opportunity to succeed. It also offers a really important place of structuring their week, or to take time for celebrations on their growth in classes and their success that they might be experiencing in other classes. So I would say that layers of support within a school are vital and essential to the overall success of that school and the students. Without a whole school effort to be there alongside the student, use every opportunity they have to encourage them and to help them in whatever they need, it's easy for students to fall through the cracks. Careers, as well as teacher and student relationships, are extremely important. Connecting students with potential career paths for their future jobs kind of goes hand in hand with positive teacher-student relationships. By helping students find what interests them, by helping them determine what their passions are, helps to create kind of a hope, kind of an interest in their future, something to look forward to. By working with students, showing them that you care about them, showing them that there's a teacher there who really is dedicated to their success and is committed to seeing them succeed in every class, no matter what it is, no matter what student it is vital for a successful support system, especially the bridging the support component. My advice to leadership or administrators who may be considering adding new layers of support within their own schools really can be summed up within holding student interest at the heart of any type of support that is being provided, and ensuring that students know that they are supported 100% in their schools is vital. Ensuring that any support system is versatile, works across content, works for any student anywhere is also very important. I would say those two major things are the largest and most important components of any support system in a school.
So that's well said, and I don't know if I can say it any better, but these layers of support that you see right here on the screen right now, I would encourage you to look at those. Again, I'm you guys, right? I'm not a published professional. This is like practitioner research 101 that I'm doing here at my school. And best intentions, trying to get this to you guys and thinking that even if you can grasp onto one, start there and try to grow that one and then move on to another one. I think in my experience, though, what I've seen with these 7 elements in place, and again, I think there are places where on these 7 items that we can do better, that you start to see student retention rates grow. You start to see academic success increase. And you potentially even see, and you could probably make some associations with dual credit attainment and associate degree attainment and certificates along the way as well, and make those connections. But I think it's all part of that game in making sure that, like Mr. Hazelwood said, that those students feel 100% supported while they're here at your school. And I love to put this up here. This is the goal, right? That they graduate with you. The way that we do it here is they graduate with our school on a Friday, and then on a Saturday they're wearing their purple grad gown and graduating with San Juan College. And so I have a recent slide that I presented actually to our students that shows a nursing student with us that finished here, but she was working through UNM. And so we had her in all 3 grad gowns, and that was pretty neat, and just says a lot. And another first generation student that was doing that, right, underrepresented, and it's pretty amazing. That is my presentation, guys. It's 2:47, so I finished like 12 minutes early. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have, concerns or otherwise.
Seth, that was a great presentation. I have a couple of questions for you, specifically about SOAR. So can you walk, so let me just see that I understood this correctly, because I don't know if there's two different things going on. Is it both all of your freshmen take this, and then all of the students that are past being a freshman that either get a D or an F or a 2.75, they get put back into that program? Is it for the whole semester, or is it until their grades get up past that certain threshold? You know what I mean?
Yeah, great question. So what we found is that monitoring the ability to, so let me go to your first question. So we have two first-year teachers that both teach SOAR classes, and that way we're able to put the entire first-year group in SOAR, no questions asked. Then we have one teacher that's dedicated second year through fourth year students. And that class that's the one where you can get assigned in there and or work your way out of there. So the second part of your question is that we found it very difficult to track when a student is getting above that grade point average or even the grade that needs to come up just because of reporting. Some professors and instructors report midterm, some don't. We know that's kind of a headache. So we've just said, if you've been scheduled, you're going to stay at least the semester. And then during reporting, we'll be able to reassess and look. But we also promote this as a central hub for all kids. So it's not looked at as like, I just got SOAR detention and I'm in here, right? Because we do have students that go there just to study and get support. But I think that's crucial because we didn't want it to become, something that is negative. We didn't want to have a negative connotation. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that did. And it kind of goes into what my second question was going to be, was how are you able to get the consistent grades in from professors or different things? And you answered that at the second part too, because I was thinking that could become an issue.
Yeah. And I always say this, I think one thing that is unique at our school, and we have been blessed to have this, but our college advisor is employed by us at our school here, but has access to college scheduling. And so we've worked with our higher ed partner to get that ability here and the credentialing for her and the training for her to do that. But that's been a game changer because she can look at midterm grades and what's been reported aside from maybe like a PDF that's sent to us in as real time as we can get, right? So it'd be the same thing that any other college advisor on campus has. And that has really helped this SOAR program. They work really hand in hand. The college advisor and our SOAR instructors really work closely together.
That's something that I'm having a little bit of, I wouldn't say trouble. Working with the universities we work with has been really good, but having that direct access right now, we do luckily have the academic advisor from UNMBC comes once a month. So we're able to check that way, and I'm able to check through the students' phones. But I would love some advice on how to work with the universities to get that access, because we're talking with them right now about it.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I have found was probably the tipping point is when we agreed to do any and all training along with the higher ed partner that they need in order for that person to be credentialed appropriately. We said we will do it, whatever it is, whenever it happens. You let us know, and we will participate. So, yeah.
Same. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet, Elizabeth. I see you have a hand raised.
Yeah, my question was around the credit recovery portion that you presented. I was wondering about, you said that they can only take English through Edgenuity. That means that you have in-person teachers teaching a credit recovery section for all other subjects?
Yeah, great question. And so we have, and we have had in the past, a few teachers who have been willing to do the credit recovery during the summertime. However, we've tapped into, and again, this is similar to getting that credentialing. into summer school opportunities that exist in the district. And so if there's a face-to-face that's happening at another school, we work with those counselors in that institution to get our students signed up for that. So we can ensure it's kind of hit and miss sometimes, and there's not always a credit recovery happening at the time, but we'll kind of go do everything we can to ensure that that student's sitting with a teacher for the credit recovery. So it's not always, I guess to be clear, Elizabeth, it's not always from our school per se, and many times we'll use other schools around to get those credits.
Other high school summer school programs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I guess my next question would be, do you have any credit recovery built into the school day, after school, weekends, anything like that, that's in person versus Edgenuity?
Good question. So I don't think short answer is no in terms of what would get them a full credit. With that said, though, we do implement sometimes Saturday schools here and there in order to support working towards that. And that might be a student that is on Edgenuity. But again, that's typically an ELA class. But we will sit down if the SOAR teacher, the one we have, is very proficient in math. And so we have felt comfortable sometimes, just a handful of times, putting a student on Edgenuity with that teacher and letting that teacher monitor that work, just so they're not circumventing the curriculum, right? That's our biggest worry. So if they finished Algebra 2 in 2 weeks, then we know something's amiss. So
Edgenuity is throughout the school year, but the kids mostly do that like after school or on their own time?
Well, that would be during SOAR.
During SOAR. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Great question. So those kids would report. We will actually put it on their schedule. So they have a hard copy of, hey, during third period, I have to go to this SOAR classroom and work on that credit recovery during that time.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Jennifer, I'll hand it back over to you.
Well, I want to thank you, Seth, for the excellent presentation, and hope you're open to sharing your email and open your house for everybody to come visit now that they see the great things that you have going on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything I have, anything that would help, I'm always willing to share.
And thanks to all of you for taking the time to attend today. And we will see you in next month's professional learning community session as well. Thank you. Thank you again, Seth.
You bet. Thank you, guys.